Hello everyone, xForts here, and welcome to JoJolion Chapter 79 review and discussion. This month's chapter is titled Equivalent Exchange and the University Hospital Part 3. JoJolion was not on the cover of Ultra Jump this month, so we can get right into the chapter starting with the cover page. And the cover page this month is really nice. It's just a big shot of all the main key players in the story right now, really close together. All the main characters that are appearing in this current arc and in this chapter: Mitsuba, Josuke, Yasuo, and Mamazuku, and also some more characters like Jobin and Tsurugi, who are the other main key players in the part right now, as they have their hands on the real Rokakaka branch, and also they could be affected in some way of the things happening in this current arc that involve Mitsuba. So I really like this cover page, and also people were pointing out that Araki has really improved his same face syndrome that was really prevalent in Steel Ball Run when multiple characters would share cover pages. We all know the Britney Spears cover page with Lucy, Johnny, and Gyro, but I think Araki's really improved, and each character in JoJolion has their own distinct features, and it's really easy to differentiate themselves from each and every character. So really nice job, Araki, improving same face. But I will say Mamazuku is starting to look way more feminine than when he was first introduced. I think it's just that he has more eyeliner, or it's just drawn, his eyes are a little bit darker, so that gives him a more feminine complexion. But Mamazuku just looks like cute as fuck in this cover page right here. So that's all there is for that. Let's get on to the actual chapter now. So chapter 79 starts off with Josuke and Mamazuku making their way into TG University Hospital. They're in the waiting room and they're looking around looking for Yasuo because they know that she is under attack, or she's going to be under attack very soon. Because the last time we saw them interact was when they were on the phone together, when Josuke and Mamazuku were in the hospital parking lot looking for the ambulance with the plate number 311, just to investigate and get some more information on their enemy. And Yasuo just so happened to be in the hospital at this time, so Josuke was like, "You're in danger, we're here investigating the enemy, you gotta get out." But Yasuo didn't listen to him and got herself in a really bad situation. And if you remember the end of chapter 79, the last thing that happened, it was a bit of a cliffhanger. Yasuo was dragged into a room by what we thought was Mitsuba. There was a lot of theories going around. I personally thought that Mitsuba was being controlled by someone, and it was through his stand ability. Mitsuba's whole character was just completely changing that chapter, so it was pretty clear that something was going on. You know, this must be a work of an enemy stand, and Josuke and Mamazuku are here to save the day. And there's some slight dialogue between them. You know, you guys have all read the chapters. Spoilers, they don't reach Yasuo this entire chapter. I guess the excuse is just the hospital is so big, we don't even know where to look. That's what they point out. And in last month's chapter review, a lot of people were questioning, is this the same hospital Holly's staying at? Is this the same hospital from the beginning? And I said it wasn't, because I looked at the panels earlier in JoJolion, and now the hospitals were similar in many ways, but they're also different in many ways. And also Araki referred to them as different names. Before it was just the Morioh Hospital, and now this is being referred to exclusively as the TG University Hospital. And that name was not used in the beginning of the part. So the name was different and it looked different, and Josuke never mentioned anything about Holly. I think, you know, I was like, if Josuke's going to this hospital that's, you know, apparently being controlled by stand users and rock humans, wouldn't Josuke maybe be worried about Holly in some way? But he never mentioned her, so I was like, I guess this isn't the same hospital. But now we have clarification from Mamazuku of all people that says it's just our prediction that someone in this hospital has the Rokakaka branch. We don't know if it's for sure, but the only thing we do know for sure is that Holly-san is staying in this hospital. And I didn't think much of that at first. I was like, okay, so that kind of retcons everything I said in my last chapter review. This is the same hospital, but I was like, why would Mamazuku say that? Why does Mamazuku even know who Holly is? The only affiliation Mamazuku has with this whole part right now was Norisuke, and he just grew plants for him, and I'm sure he wasn't involved much in his personal life. So it doesn't really make sense for Mamazuku to know who Holly-san is, or that she's at this hospital, because not even Josuke has mentioned it. So I guess we're just left to assume that Josuke mentioned this to Mamazuku off screen. And even after Mamazuku mentions that Holly is staying in this hospital, Josuke doesn't say anything about it. He's not like, oh yeah, we should save Holly. He just says we have to search deeper, or we have to do a deeper search. It's like, I didn't understand that. I feel like Josuke should have been the one to say something about Holly, because if I recall correctly, Josuke, in all of his adventures with Mamazuku so far in JoJolion, he's never mentioned Holly. Maybe in an inner monologue or just to himself whispering, being like, Holly-san, I need to protect Holly-san, something like that. But that was just kind of confusing on my second read through, and I don't think that makes a lot of sense why Mamazuku knows Holly and knows that she's in this hospital. So Whatever. So after Josuke and Mamazuku enter the hospital and they have that quick moment of dialogue, that's the end of their importance in this chapter. They do appear again later, but they don't have any dialogue or anything. That's just the rest of what they do in the chapter. Now we switch over to Yasuo's point of view, where we are, we pick up where we left off last chapter with that cliffhanger of her being attacked and dragged back into the operating room, or just the hospital room that she was in. And again, she's still being under attack by Mitsuba, who is having these really weird characteristics of licking her ear. And she also had these massive boils on her hand that we didn't really, I was like, whatever stand is attacking them right now has like 10 different abilities. And I assumed that it was going to be 2 stands. So we saw an electric shock that attacked Yasuo and her cell phone. We saw a wheelchair be flattened, and we also saw Mitsuba being controlled. And there might have been another thing in there, but last chapter there was just a lot of things going on, and I thought it was too much to be one stand ability, but I guess it is just one stand ability. We finally see Tomaki's stand in this chapter, and Tomaki's stand is actually really cool. We'll get more onto it later when it's fully revealed, but yeah, and also Tamaki, I thought his name was a reference to Dr. Doctor, the song by UFO, because of all the motifs on his shirt and the name tags. But people were saying that it is actually a reference to Dr. Wu by Steely Dan, because his first name is Yu, and I wasn't even going to try to pronounce that because I would have got ripped apart in the comments. xForts is not pronounced that, it's pronounced this. Trust me, I'm a Japanese expert. I speak the language, so I don't speak the language. I didn't bother trying to pronounce it, but apparently it can be pronounced Wu, so that's pretty cool. We have a Steely Dan reference, but we still don't know the stand's name. So back to what's happening currently. When Mitsuba is attacking Yasuo, all of a sudden she stops, and she is again confused on where she is. Last chapter, Mitsuba was really confused on everything. She seemed forgetful, and since she was having the Rokakaka used on her to extort her for coming in back and again and again to the hospital to just rack up her bills, to exploit her, and that's what they were using the Rokakaka for, the rock humans and the doctors, was to exploit people. I was like, what could have it taken? Because it fixed her the back of her head that was all flaky. Originally, she wanted a breast enlargement surgery. She got that, and then I believe it was her ton, and then she got her ton fixed, and then it was her hair. I might have been forgetting something, but it was just something went wrong. And her legs, obviously her legs went wrong, but her legs are back to normal now. So the big question was, what was taken from her when the Rokakaka was used again? I was saying memories, because her brain was just not working correctly. She couldn't remember anything Yasuo said. She couldn't remember why she was in the hospital. So I just was led to believe that it was her memories. But we come to find out, when she's being controlled by Tamaki, she loses memories, and it's almost like he literally enters her body and takes over control, but he does it in a really interesting way that's shown off later. So that's the reason why she's losing her memory, is because she can't remember when she's being controlled by Tamaki. But big twist later in the chapter, she might have lost something even more important than her memories. So there's quite a few pages of dialogue of just Yasuo and Mitsuba talking very confused between each other, saying, when you use the Rokakaka, she explains it again to her about equivalent exchange and that you must have lost something, and Mitsuba's like, who's in my body? What took anything from me? I'm so confused. And then Tamaki leaves Mitsuba's body through her hands. A bunch of little rocks come shooting out of her hands and all onto the ground. And this is more of Tamaki's stand ability. Before it was the 2 rocks that were interacting, but now it's just like a swarm of a whole bunch of rocks that will just enter one's body and then begin to control them. And this is actually like a pretty brutally horrifying chapter right here. The way that Tamaki's stand actually enters the body. It goes through quite literally anywhere possible. It goes through Yasuo's ears, in her mouth, and even her vagina. So yeah, she's like, they're prying, the rocks are prying me open. So it honestly, it was really unsettling seeing this happen in this chapter. Just imagine rocks going into your body through every hole possible. I was just like, ooh, man, feel really bad for Yasuo here. But luckily, she's able to stop the attack pretty quickly by using Paisley Park. And we haven't seen Paisley Park in a really cool time, in a really long time, but I think it does a really cool use of its ability here. So what it does is that, I could go on a whole rant about how Paisley Park is just like a plot device stand, but at this point in time, Paisley Park can do pretty much anything. If anyone asks me what its ability is, all I'll say is that it's technology manipulation and everything that falls under that umbrella. Pretty much anything that has to do with technology, Yasuo can do it. Yasuo can exploit it in some way. So Paisley Park doesn't really have a really simple and set in stone ability. It's more abstract, and it can do pretty much anything Araki wants it to do that involves technology. So in this use case, Yasuo's Paisley Park puts its hand into a computer and accesses the hospital room where the MRI machine is, and then uses its other hand to use it as an MRI on Yasuo, which pretty much it's like an x-ray of your entire body. It's used to scan for cancer cells and whatnot and other things that might be wrong with your body. And what the stand sees is all of the rocks going into Yasuo's body and forming compounds with her biology. So I'm not a chemistry major, but my girlfriend is. So if she was home right now, she might have a better idea of what's happening. But you see different compounds and different, I don't know what the word would be. I guess just organic compounds and molecules forming. So what Tamaki does is that he is a person, but his stand is, he has a combined stand similar to Stone Free if Stone Free didn't have a humanoid form. You know how Stone Free can sort of combine with JoJolion and she can turn her fingers to strings? So Tamaki's stand is a combined stand, but he's able to completely break down his body into rocks and enter other people's bodies and form with their biology and then essentially become them and control them, which is really crazy, man. Really nutty ability he's got, and I don't think anyone could have predicted that. That's what the ability was, but that's what it is. That explains a lot of other stuff, why he was disappearing. People were like, where did he go? He just went into this room and then he vanished. He completely broke his body down to rocks and entered Mitsuba. And there appears to be some side effects like Mitsuba's hands covering up with boils. I guess that's where a majority of the rocks entered, and that's why her hands were, really disgusting looking. They entered through her fingernails and inside that way and made her hands all puffy and gross. So that's what it's doing for Yasuo, but it's going through everywhere in her body and it's combining with her, trying to control her. But luckily, Paisley Park is able to determine where, I guess, the most important rocks are, and it takes a syringe and sticks it into Yasuo's eye, grabs the rock out and pulls it out. I guess they're able to just phase through her body because they're stands, so sometimes they work as physical objects, other times they can work as more ghostly objects, but I guess it works. It just works, guys. Paisley Park. I don't know. I'll let this one slide. So now that all the rocks and all of Tamaki leave Yasuo's body, she immediately grabs Mitsuba and is like, we gotta go. We gotta get out of here. And you get the coolest damn panels of Tamaki like reforming himself through the rocks. It's sort of like the reverse Infinity War effect instead of fading to dust. Or he can also do that too when he wants to escape. The I don't feel so good meme, but it's that's sort of his ability in a way. But it's just really cool seeing his body completely reformed by rock. And it's like, dude, rock humans are really cool. And their stands are always, they always work alongside them being rock humans. So I wonder if it's a thing that rock humans have different stands from humans, as like they're more combined with their species, because rock humans are a different species from human, obviously, and they have like completely different stands. If you remember the Aphex brothers, a lot of their stands appear as rocks. I believe it was the first Aphex brother that could turn his hand into a rock and have it transform into anything he touches. I Am a Rock also appeared like that. So I don't know, man. Rock humans just have really interesting stands, and I really like how they work alongside the biology of their person. But as Tamaki reforms into his humanoid form, he becomes like really menacing. He's like a huge villain. And Yasuo was explaining what she thinks the rock humans' motive is. She's like, the rock humans, they want the equivalent exchange. They want to use that in some way. And Tamaki reforms, and he's like, Yasuo, Hirose. Like, you are right in some of those, but there is one thing you are forgetting, or one thing that you're wrong about. And he doesn't quite reveal it, but he does confirm that yes, like, of course we've been exploiting you. Us rock humans in this hospital, we've been giving you Rokakaka after Rokakaka treatment, and we have made a huge profit off you. Just one person, we made 200 million yen. So of course I'm doing this for money. Money's what makes the world go around. So you guys were right on that. Rock humans are extorting these people, but man, Tamaki is actually like really cool. This is a really cool stand, man. Like one of my favorites in JoJolion. But there's another stand revealed at the end of this chapter that has one of the coolest designs I've ever seen in Part 8 and just all JoJo. So then, as Mitsuba and Yasuo begin to run out of the room, Tamaki Dis forms himself again, and the vent on the ceiling begins to like suck up air, and he breaks himself down, and he gets sucked up into the vent, and he's able to track them down and chase them down through like the air, which is just so cool, dude. Seeing him completely transform himself and just go around the air there, and as they're running, he's chasing them, and that's just a really cool stand, man. One of my favorites in JoJolion. At first, it kind of reminded me of Brainstorm, the way it would climb up you. When it was climbing into Yasuo, it was like climbing up her body, and I was like, this is kind of like Brainstorm. It's a stand that's broke up into many different pieces, and if it touches you or gets inside you, you're pretty much screwed. So at first, I was like, this is kind of like Brainstorm 2.0, but now that I see what it is, how it's a combined stand, it's just like, it's really awesome. And then we get a big twist in the chapter. Mitsuba reveals that she is pregnant while she's going through all these Rokakaka treatments, which is definitely not good. And then she's really worried. She's like, so when you're saying when they take something from me, I don't know what's been exchanged now. My legs are back to normal. What did they take from me? And the really only option here, obviously there's nothing wrong with her in the exterior. It looks like when she got her legs back, the Rokakaka took away the fetus growing inside her. So Mitsuba was pregnant, but through equivalent exchange, it took her baby, which is like another horror aspect to this chapter, which is just like, damn, dude, like that's deep, that's heavy. So with Mitsuba kind of coming to the realization that her unborn baby was taken away from her, she summons her stand. And I don't think anyone thought Mitsuba was going to be a stand user. In the beginning of the part, I was like, Mitsuba, she doesn't really have a design. And then she just went away for like 60 chapters and now she's back. I don't think anyone thought Mitsuba was a stand user, but when she summons her stand, it is one of the coolest designs I've ever seen, like I mentioned before. The stand design originally reminded me of Decidueye, the Pokemon from 7th Gen, Sun and Moon, one of the starters. Its final evolution, the way that's like, its face is sort of like in shadows and it has like a cloak around it and it's wearing like a long like, I don't know, it's like a poncho almost, but dude, this stand is like the Grim Reaper right now. And I'm sure Mitsuba is extremely pissed to sort of be under the assumption that her unborn babies have been taken away from her by these rock human doctors that also extorted her out of 200 million yen. And this stand looks like it's extremely deadly. It looks like it's just made for killing. It's just really awesome. A lot of people were saying it reminded them of Medusa with all the arrows and everything. I think it's going to do something with momentum. It looks like a lot of the arrows are spinning around the stand and a lot of movement happening. So that could be something with it. It also reminds me a lot of Walking Heart, the way that Hato's hair was arrows and the way that Walking Heart was made up of like a bunch of string. So I'm kind of getting a Walking Heart vibe from Mitsuba, although Hato and Mitsuba aren't related biologically. But dude, I think we can all agree this is a really damn cool looking stand, and I cannot wait to find out what its ability is. And also, as Mitsuba and Yasuo ran out of the room, they saw Josuke and Mamazuku, so I assume they'll be able to meet up with them almost instantly. So, new stand user introduced in this chapter, Mitsuba, and we saw the full reveal of Tamaki Stand, and this was a really good chapter, man. I really like this. Although we are almost 80 chapters into JoJolion. 80 chapters and we're still getting new stand users revealed that are allies, which is crazy, man. I don't know how long this part's going to be, but the fact that we're getting a new stand introduced by a main protagonist this late in the part, it makes me feel like we still have a handful of stands to be introduced. But with the reveal of Mitsuba's stand, that is where the chapter concludes. And we get some more narration that is usually at the beginning and end of the chapters by Araki that says, what was taken? So the chapter right now is really alluding to that the unborn baby was taken from her. And I think that's the case. And that would also give Mitsuba way more motivation to fight against the rock humans and join them as an ally. And I just cannot wait to see what the stand does, dude. It is so cool looking. So that is going to conclude chapter 79. I really like it. We saw more Tamaki Stand, new stand introduced, and the whole gang is going to meet up in the next chapter, unless we get some bullshit flashback by Mitsuba or something. That could be a possibility now that her stands are introduced. Maybe Araki wants to elaborate more on her character, but it seems like every time in JoJolion when something exciting is about to happen, it gets interrupted by a switch to someone else's perspective or a flashback or something like that. So maybe we'll see what Jobin and Tsurugi are up to, but I'd really like the next chapter to continue on this fight with the equivalent exchange in the University Hospital Part 4 and just have this become like a real fight. But this seems like there needs to be another enemy stand user introduced because this seems a little unfair right now, or some stand users are going to need to be removed from this situation because you have Mitsuba, Yasuo, Josuke, and Mamazuku. That's 4 stand users that all have really powerful stands, although we don't know what Mitsuba, but just the 3. Just Yasuo, Mamazuku, and Josuke have really powerful stands. Now we have Mitsuba. There needs to be more stand users introduced to make this like a really interesting all-out brawl fight between multiple rock human doctors. That would be really cool. But right now, Tamaki, it's not looking good for Tamaki. Looks like they'll be able to wreck him pretty easily with no matter what his ability is. But yeah, guys, that's going to conclude chapter 79. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really good. And hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and this chapter as well. So guys, thank you so much for watching this chapter review. I really appreciate it. I will see you guys next month for another JoJolion chapter review, and as well as other videos scattered throughout the month. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it, and have a good day. See you later. Bye.